Many of us face immense challenges in our lives. I want to uncover secrets and principles to building a life filled with purpose, not weighed down by hardship. I'm Kirsty, your host in this journey. Each episode, I'll be talking to different people, sharing their stories and practical steps to help us to design a life that we love.
I was born with cerebral palsy and told that my biggest challenges would be the way I walk and the way I talk. For me, I saw a world where I really, from a really young age, wanted to contribute to it in the most awesome way and saw that as my responsibility. The only constant in this world is change, and we're always evolving. And if you have a desire to achieve something, I totally believe you can do that.
Joining me today, we've got Cam Calkoen, and I'm very excited to have Cam here because I met Cam through one of our previous people who's been on the podcast. So recently we had Naresh who came on and he talked to us all about his journey on a tandem bicycle down New Zealand. And Cam is connected to Naresh, and it's been really great to have some amazing people on the show. So Cam, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Oh, awesome. Thank you for being here. And it's an honour to be on a show with such amazing people. We've
had some incredible people, haven't we? So Cam, you're all about opportunity. You're all about potential, living an awesome life, and how our circumstances don't need to be a barrier to our success and our dreams. Is that right?
Exactly. I mean, where we've come from doesn't need to influence where we're going. What influences where we're going is our imagination and then our ability to act on those dreams.
Oh, I love it. So for our listeners, they might be able to hear that you sound just slightly different.
Yep.
What is, in a good way, that's all good. What is your story? What's your background?
So I was born with cerebral palsy in 1984 in May, and told that my biggest challenges would be the way I walk and the way I talk. And I grew up in a family that kind of inspired me to really focus on my strengths, what I can do, not what I can't do. And instead of worrying about the way I walk, I decided to be inspired by the greatest athletes to eventually become an athlete myself. And instead of worrying about the way I talk and seeing my speech as an impediment, I decided to see it as an accent, and was inspired by some incredible speakers to now be a full-time speaker myself.
Oh, do you know, I love it. I love it how you saw the opportunity. So tell us a little bit about your physical journey. They said you might not be able to walk well.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep. And then you went on to be an athlete.
Yeah, so they painted the worst picture, which is a very narrow-minded thing to do, because the only constant in this world is change, and we're always evolving. And if you have a desire to achieve something, I totally believe you can do that. So for the first 7 years of my life, I went to the hospital every single day for speech therapy, physiotherapy, and just realized that, I didn't go because I knew I had cerebral palsy. I just went because it was sort of what I became used to. And I think, I often do this thing. So with having cerebral palsy, I can be a bit shaky, right? But I'm way more shaky when I'm in front of people than when I'm at home in my own space. So It's all about what we tell ourselves and the perceptions that we are aware that we're giving other people. And so when I'm in front of people, if I spill a glass of water, I think that they go, oh, bless, it's because he's got cerebral palsy, rather than, I just simply made a mistake. So, I buzz myself out a lot on my life and what I get to learn from that in terms of hopefully then influencing other people's perspectives on just what is possible, and moving away from this mindset that difference has to be a bad thing.
Yeah, wow. So you said you spent the first 7 years of your life going into the hospital nearly every day.
Yep, so my friends, they would go home, they'd skateboard, they'd do all that, and I'd drive past them on my way up to the hospital after school.
So you'd go to school and then go to the hospital after school?
Yeah. So I had like a normal education. I was mainstreamed right through education.
Yeah.
The only time I went to a school that had a special needs unit, I wasn't a part of a special needs unit, but it was when I was at high school, and to be honest, it was the worst school I ever went to because there was this attitude that if you are different, you belong in a different classroom. And the thing is that in society, we don't have that once we finish school. So going back to a school that didn't have special needs unit was the best thing ever because students just saw students as students.
Yeah. That's awesome. And so how was that for you when you're going off to the hospital every day? How did that make you feel? Did you feel pretty different to all the other kids? And how did that affect your friendships and relationships that you had with people?
Yeah, and in no way did it affect anything. Like for me, it was just like every single day you've got to brush your teeth, you've got to get dressed. I just had this additional thing of going to the hospital to have massage and therapy and physiotherapy and speech therapy, but it actually didn't get in the way. Like when I look back on my childhood as a school kid, like
Yeah.
I had the best childhood. I wouldn't change anything. Like I had lots of friends. I was popular. I think like as I got older, people would say things like, you're mature beyond your years. And I think I had to be like that since I was at primary school because I was aware that I didn't want to be left out. And because I was a different person, it was my responsibility, no one else's responsibility, to build connection and rapport. And so I saw that everything I did was a way of making me stronger and therefore able to build that connection with the other kids.
Yeah, wow, that's fantastic. And so that's quite an early age to be thinking this way. How did that come about?
Yep.
Was that your parents' influence from day dot? You said that they were really encouraging and really supportive.
Yeah, like I often wonder that. And absolutely, I was put into great environments. I had incredible people, but I also believe that from a very young age, I was a dreamer, right? And so what you do with stuff is up to what you see. And for me, I saw a world where I really, from a really young age, wanted to contribute to it in the most awesome way and saw that as my responsibility. And I was lucky that I was brought up in an environment that kind of didn't encourage it, but 100% supported it. 100% supported me to do what I wanted to do. If I wanted to play football, mum and dad would go out and get me ready to play football. But it was my decision to put my name down and then to turn up at training and train harder than any other kid so that I could be on that team.
Yeah, wow. So do you think that's what a lot of it was you put in the extra miles, the extra attention into everything you did to really get ahead in life and have this amazing life?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I was inspired by that from stories of other people. Like hearing stories of people who had overcome whatever challenge it was to be incredible. And like I said, instead of seeing my speech as an impediment, I saw it as an accent. And that was with great thanks to amazing athletes that I would hear being interviewed in a press conference, and you'd hear and you'd see 100 people listening intently to these athletes, in awe of these athletes. The way in which they spoke didn't matter because people really wanted to hear what they had to say. So when it came to me becoming a speaker, I realized if I could just give people stuff that they wanted to hear, I didn't need to worry so much about what it sounded like, but I had to focus on how I would deliver it.
Wow, that's fantastic. And you've gone on, so you're actually a certified speaking professional, aren't you? And so that's amazing. For our listeners who don't understand what that is, that's one of the highest levels of accreditation you can get for your speaking profession, isn't it?
Yeah. There's one or two above it, but it's just one of those things. It's about like getting awards and getting medals or whatever. It really is just the icing on the cake. But the way I see it is that if this is what you want to do, you want to have as much icing as you can to show people, because again, it's all about changing people's perceptions, and the more that you have to make. The more you have that people can connect to or feel comfortable with, the more you've got to leverage, and then the more you can celebrate what makes you different within that area. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes great sense. I absolutely love what you're saying. Have you ever had any, like, you sound very positive here, you've got a lot of insight in how we can overcome things. Have you ever been through a situation where you felt the limitations or felt like you couldn't achieve something?
Yeah, I mean, on a really regular basis, but the biggest one would be when I was becoming a teenager, and I remember looking up the word disability in the dictionary and seeing words like weak, broken, mentally retarded, and thinking to myself, like, if that's how my dictionary sees me, how does society see me? And then everyone knows what it's like when you're becoming a teenager. Your body's kind of all over the place anyway. But when you start looking at these sort of words and these kind of labels, you start thinking, well, what kind of life am I going to be able to live? And so that combined for being in the school that had the special needs unit led to a really low point of my life where I did start dropping out of sport. I started to kind of really, really not wanting to go to school, and even walking out of school sometimes, and even thinking things that kind of today really scared me, but I even thought about those things in terms of my life. So, yeah.
Yeah, how does that make you feel when you're reading these things? And it's not like you're putting the limits on yourself. It's almost that the world is preset a description or a belief around somebody in your situation. How does that make you feel?
It just kind of disappoints me, because I think that it's the biggest holdback in society is that we read these labels and we read these words and we make assumptions and judgment before we've actually got to know the situation of a person. And the scary thing about that is that ultimately it holds everyone back.
It kind of puts us into a box, doesn't it? It gives us a label almost.
Because but it also gives everyone a label. Like I mean, so I was away on vacation 2 weeks ago, and I'm going into these shops where obviously difference is something that makes people quite uncomfortable, and I felt that I wasn't getting the service that someone else or anyone would deserve. And the unfortunate thing about that is that everyone missed out. And that I mean, from a simple perspective, the retailer, the shopkeeper didn't get a sale that they could have got. So from a really basic point of view, through them having a blinded perception, they haven't made some money that they could have made in that day. But also what happens in real life when something doesn't go quite right, or when, you know, situations change. Because like I've said before, the only constant is change. And even like when you look at someone like an Ed Sheeran, I'm reading Ed Sheeran's book at the moment, and he spoke about at school being like the weird kid, and now he's kind of the coolest guy in the world, right? And so how cool would have it been to have been his friend when he was still that little weird kid, and now being the friend of the coolest guy in the world? Like,
Yeah.
we've got to stop this. We've just got to give people an opportunity to showcase who they are. But if you are different in any way, you need to embrace every opportunity that you are to showcase who you are and what you have to offer this world. Like, it's totally your responsibility to break the ice, no one else's.
Yeah, wow. I love the way you look at that, because a lot of people, it's quite easy to become the person who's saying, well, people need to connect with me, or get a victim mentality. But you're saying you have the full responsibility. If you
Totally. Like, I go into schools quite a bit, and that's the first question they ask is like, did you get bullied at school? And like, I didn't get bullied because I realized I was different, and that it was my responsibility to be able to build that connection, that rapport, and that friendship. So I would go up and I'd be like, oh, you guys like skiing? Cool. I want to go to the snow. I want to check it out, and I'm going to try, and I'm going to learn how to ski. So that now we've got this connection,
Yeah, totally. I love it how you own it. You're saying own your circumstance, own who you are, and be proud of that. And use
but
that.
also know your environment. So who are you working with? So like for me, like humor is pretty damn important, because like who doesn't like a good laugh? And so if you can do that, like when I speak, I usually start my speeches with some humor, because at that point you've made everyone like relaxed, comfortable. I'm like, cool, they can understand me. I understand where they're at. Like, it's all about building rapport in this world. And once you can build rapport, you can take people anywhere, including yourself.
Yeah, totally. I absolutely love it. You're talking about building rapport. You're talking about when you were just young, still at school, and, having the confidence to find your way in this world. What would you say to somebody who perhaps is listening to this and either themselves are struggling in a social situation, or they've got children who are really struggling to be themselves and to have this confidence to change their world? What sort of things do you think they can do to be able to turn their life around and have the confidence to go out there and own their situation?
Yeah, well, it's recognizing it's recognizing that difference really can be a good thing, but you've got to know what is your difference and what makes you strong in that situation. And you've got to, you don't have to, having your dream, like I'm going to change it a little bit. I'm going to go back to that power of a dream. So ever since I was a kid, I had a very specific dream of the way in which I wanted to live this world. And therefore, sure, it is my responsibility to whatever steps that I need to take in order to create that dream. Having that strength and that ability to dream is really important, and to believe in that dream, because I, from a young age, really knew what dream life I wanted to live. And as soon as things came in the way that was disrupting that, I saw it as something that I had to correct in order to fulfill my ultimate desire.
So how did you know what you wanted early on?
Well, I knew, so my dream was I wanted to live a life where I got to travel, where I got to entertain, and where I got to connect with a lot of people. And that definitely came through inspiration from movies, books, TV shows. And then as opportunities came my way, such as putting my name down for the school athletics day, I didn't just see it as an opportunity to do the school athletics. I recognised that within school athletics, if I did well, I would get to travel, that sport was a form of entertainment, and that I would be connecting with a lot of people.
Yeah, I love it. It's really, really cool. So you did that. Everything that you've done in your life, you've gone hard at it, haven't you? You've really
100% or nothing. Yep.
Yeah. Is that your personality in general? all or nothing?
Yep, it is, but it also it creates some challenges because for me, it's 100% or nothing, which also means that I find it really hard to multitask because
Yeah.
I'm really set on what has to be done right now, and that takes my focus. And as life gets busier and busier with more and more things coming into it, there's more and more things to do. So, yeah.
So how do you manage that? How do you keep in the driver's seat of your ambition and your competition that you want to do and keeping going forward?
One of the biggest challenges is managing the way in which I operate, but then at the same time, just having great confidence in that what I've done in the last 34 years has worked pretty well. So just to keep believing in that. And having fun with it all, and I think sometimes I can get too serious about it all. I can be like, oh my God, and again, it comes down to perception. So I often have to look at my own content and be like, Cam, this is what you need to be listening to as well. And I snap back into it and totally believe in it.
So what sort of things do you have in your life these days which keep you in this space where you can keep growing and progressing and chasing your dreams?
Yeah, well, having time out, finding that part of the world that I really love to be in and getting down there and seeing downtime as a good thing. Like it used to be when I'd see a gap of say 2 weeks where I wasn't traveling, I would really panic and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I want to be busy, but seeing that creates a space for me to develop content, but ultimately to recharge myself. And in that time, I like to listen to not necessarily speakers, but other forms of entertainers.
Fun's a really major part of your life, isn't it? You like to have a lot of fun and keep everything quite lighthearted.
Yeah, but because it's a big contrast, and the fun is a balance because there's a lot of focus and that goes into creating who I am as a speaker. I had a friend once upon a time when it was early days who said, oh, Cam, you've got such a sweet job. You just stand up in front of people and just speak and just tell your story. And I was like, well, if only it was that simple.
Yeah,
and
there's a lot of work, right?
Of course it is simple in the way of which you're telling stories to captivate people, but it's all about there's a formula behind everything, every talk, and I often feel like a minute of speaking is about an hour's of development, and it doesn't matter how often you give that speech, that minute still has that 1 hour of development. And so that's the contrast between the fun and the excitement, is that there's this real strong intensity of, is my content still relevant? Is it relevant to the audience? How can I tweak it and how can I deliver it in a way in which it feels like I'm delivering it for the first time?
Exactly, and keeping it relevant. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yep. So you're talking a lot about potential opportunity, creating our future.
Yep.
What's your key message that you want to share with people? What is your biggest thing that you want people to hear?
Yeah, it really is to believe in the power of your dream. And some people say, oh, I don't have a dream anymore, or I don't dream, or I'm scared of my dream. And I think that's all bullshit. I think what happens is that people either lose faith in their dream, or that the process hasn't worked so far, or that there's been a disruption, and that those three things, the disruption, the not working of the process, or the losing of the faith, has made them feel like they don't actually have a dream anymore. But if you really go back, I believe you do.
Can you just expand? You're talking about a process. What do you mean by the process?
So, for example, like if your dream was to get to the Commonwealth Games and you didn't get there, you've got to look at the process in which you took or didn't do in order to achieve that. Like, were you doing the right amount of training? Like there's your dream, but you've got to be trained, you've got to be committed, and you've got to keep evolving yourself until you get to that point. And if at any point you haven't achieved what you want to achieve, you've got to look back and go, what didn't I do in order to get there or not to get there? Yeah?
Yeah. What would you say to somebody who's having trouble to get through their process, or to really find what it is that they believe in, what they want to dream about?
So, like when you dream, so you can do a dream in a multiple of ways. And my ways in which I look at it is that you can dream in terms of a specific career. So you can be like, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a basketball player. You can really narrow it down. Or you can dream in terms of what I chose to do, of what kind of lifestyle do I want to live? What are the things that are important to me? And now I'm on the lookout for all the things that could potentially get me to a life where I get to travel, where I get to entertain, and where I get to connect.
And do you have any strategies for overcoming roadblocks or when it's just not working?
Yeah, like just keep. Yeah, so is that dream still what you really, really want to do? So I remember in the early days of my speaking, I had a big roadblock. I was like, like this is good, but it's not good enough. And so, but I'd done a whole lot of stuff, but I'd never got a coach before. So I went out and I got a coach, and that helped me get through that roadblock and on to the next level. So, you know, if we really want to achieve that thing, we can look back and go, what did I maybe not do? Or go and learn from someone else who's doing what you do and find out what steps, because when we start something, we don't necessarily know what steps we have to take. So this is where our networks are really important, of knowing people in the industry that we strive towards and learning from them.
Regardless of what it is as well, like if it's a sporting thing or if it's a business thing, no matter what it is, I think surrounding ourselves with the right people. And I love that you've brought up the idea of getting a coach, because we can learn so much more through other people because they can think outside of the box that we put around ourselves.
Yeah, well, we've got to continue investing, whether that be money or time or whatever. You've got to keep educating yourself. And one of the biggest holdbacks in society is that we get to a point where we think we've got all the qualifications we need and expect that to last the rest of our life. But we're always evolving. And so it's checking in to see whether our content and whether our support and our foundations have the strength that they need to have in order to uphold us in where we are now.
Exactly. It's never ending, is it? It's constant change, constant improvement.
Yeah, and that's the excitement of it all.
Yeah, exactly, because we never know what it's going to look like or where it's going to take us.
Yeah.
So, and thinking about that, how do you feel about your future? What have you got coming up, and what excites you about things you want to do from now onwards?
Yeah, it excites me to look back and see that, like, all this speaking, so speaking's my full-time gig now, it all started through just embracing an opportunity. Like, as an athlete, I would be asked to come and speak to people about my experiences, and speaking was my number one fear in the world, right? So I'd say, no, I'm scared. And then after saying that a few too many times, I realized I was missing my greatest opportunity. And so I developed, and I went and I started speaking with Rotary clubs. For speaking at Rotary, I've been spoke at schools, would be invited to speak at corporate events, I've been met a full-time speaker, who inspired me to make it my full-time career, and 13, 14 years later, it is my full-time lifestyle. And so when I look back at where I'm going next, when I look back to work out where I'm going next, the only thing stopping me is my imagination. And that's what I love about speaking, is that I've got to, if I can dream it and I can put in all the practice and the processes, I can get there. So like I was in Hawaii last week. While I was there, I got a person from Amsterdam contact me, being like, hey, can you come and speak in Amsterdam? And now it's all about like, well, that's an opportunity. Like I could speak just to their company, but I've got to do things to make it work. And what does that look like? So getting really creative in that process in order to be a full-time international global speaker.
Yeah, definitely. That's fantastic. I'm so happy to hear how well it's going for you and that you really are living the dream that you wanted. Do you think facing fears is a key part of that? Like you talked about how you were afraid of speaking. I mean, look at you now, that's your full-time job now.
Yeah, it's crazy, yeah.
How do you feel like in fears in life in general? Do you think we should pursue fears, or how does fear play a place in our success?
Hugely, and it kind of goes back to what we were speaking about at the very beginning of this podcast, of people being scared of what's different, right?
Yeah.
In a way, and that when we do what scares us and we actually realise that, holy moly, that was a pretty damn awesome thing to do and way more rewarding than I ever thought it would be, then we've got to remind ourselves that when it comes to whatever we're scared about, whether it's doing a bungee jump, whether it's doing a new job, or whether it's simply saying hello to someone that you've never seen before.
Yeah, it's all those little actions as well, isn't it? Make up the big things.
Like as a speaker, when I go in front of people and they first see I have cerebral palsy, and it may make them feel uncomfortable, it may make them remind them of someone else, it may have all sorts of assumptions, and then 20, 40 minutes later, we've all connected on a way in which we didn't necessarily know we were going to get at the beginning.
It's fantastic. I think a lot of what we're talking about is our mindset, is expanding what we believe is possible, and then the actions following that mindset as well. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. But also trusting that, like, expanding that mindset is one of the most rewarding things you could ever do. Like, if I continued to believe that I couldn't speak, then I wouldn't be meeting people like yourself. I wouldn't be living this life that I get to live.
Yeah, and what a cool life too.
It is.
Yeah.
It is cool. It is cool.
That is actually awesome. Cam, do you have anything else that you would like our listeners to hear? Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
It's just really having that dream, having the belief in yourself and the ability that we can create incredible things. We can look at one thing from so many different perspectives, and we just need to make one of those perspectives work for us.
Definitely, and get some support around ourselves, be able to do that, get the encouragement and the help that we need to get on our journey.
Yeah, get support, get coaching, get mentoring, get inspiration, but be totally open to doing things your way. There's lots of advice and guidance and things that have worked for certain people. There's things that have worked for me that I may have spoken about today that aren't necessarily going to work for everyone. But
yeah. Do you think there's such a thing as a bad experience or something which has gone wrong, or do you think everything is about learning and improving?
Yep. Challenges are part of it, and that's kind of what makes it exciting.
Yeah, because I think
the more that we experience in life, the more that we learn and develop.
Oh, totally. I think we can get really hung up on when things don't go perfectly, when they don't go to plan. But
Yep.
actually, if we look at the bigger picture, those are all the things where we can learn the most and we can grow and achieve more.
Yeah, but we need to give ourselves that time to reflect on like that bad situation. And so often what happens is we get a challenge in life and we want to forget about it. We just want to move on and it's gone. But if we give it the time to actually really think about it, we learn stuff from it, which either repairs the situation or empowers us for next time a similar challenge comes along.
Absolutely. That is fantastic. Cam, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us today, sharing some great insight with our listeners. And I really hope through our conversation, people feel empowered to go and stretch their comfort zones, stretch their boundaries and the things that are holding them back.
Awesome. It's been an honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if you've enjoyed this episode of the Let's Talk Life Design podcast, I would love your support to help me get these messages and conversations out there. It would mean a whole lot to me if you could either share the podcast with your friends and family, or if you could link to the podcast homepage over at letstalklifedesign.com. I really appreciate you joining me and your support as I talk to amazing guests on our show. My heart is really that I would be a channel for others to get their messages out there, to inspire our listeners to live their best life and to learn how to implement these life design principles. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll catch you soon, where we'll uncover more strategies and steps to designing that life that we love.